know that pharmaceutical companies engage in a little bit of price gouging, and shareholders are very much concerned about that because if a pharmaceutical company goes too far, well, shareholders' investment in that company could be at risk. So as a result, shareholders were pushing for legislation or regulation that would force pharmaceutical companies to disclose what their rationale is for increasing prices for various medication. Well, you would think that Trump, who claimed that he was going to be tough on these pharmaceutical companies, would side with the shareholders here. But it turns out that some of the people that he appointed himself are very much against this and have put a stop to it. So investor groups last year filed shareholder resolutions that, if passed, would force their boards to more meticulously detail their price increases for major medicines and to provide the rationale and criteria used for these price increases. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission endorsed drug companies' move to block the resolutions from being voted on by shareholders at their annual meetings. They're not even going to get to vote on it. The SEC move followed Trump promoting Republican SEC Commissioner Michael Piowar to serve as acting chairman of the agency.
So now, my take on this is a tiny bit complicated. And so first off, if this was applied to any random industry, I think I would vote no. So let me explain. So if they said to Nike, you've got to tell us how you justify the price of your sneakers, I'd say, well, no, that's kind of their business, not your business. People will either buy the sneakers or they won't buy the sneakers. Why do they have to justify what they're charging? So I would vote no on that if I was a shareholder and that came up in the Nike's shareholder meeting, right? And I would consider that overregulation. But, and there's a lot of buts here. One, healthcare isn't Nike's. And healthcare applies to all of us. And you've got these middlemen, these insurance companies we actually don't even need that are making a profit off of us.
Right.
We could actually get the healthcare insurance direct from the government, as almost all other developed countries do, and then we would cut out their profits, which is sometimes 15 to 20% at least, sometimes much higher, and we could keep that money. So when we say, hey, it might be good to see how the healthcare companies justify their costs, especially the insurance guys, that makes a little bit more sense to the public. But in this case, it's not us asking. This is where it makes a big, big difference. It's the shareholders of those companies that are asking. Now, on that note, I never understand why this is even a question. The shareholders of the company are the owners of the company.
That's right.
And every once in a while, these corporate executives go, I don't care what my stinking owners want. What the hell? You're supposed to be working for them. That's how capitalism works, right? They're like, nah, I don't really care. I'm in charge. I get to set the rules.
Right.
And I'm the one buying off the politicians. So I'm going to tell the politicians, in this case the Republican Party, don't even let the owners of the company vote on whether they can see this information. No, it's one thing if they vote, and they might vote no, like I would, right? If I was, a shareholder in Nike or some other company, right? But it's another thing if you say they're not even allowed to vote. How could the shareholders not be allowed to vote on the company that they own?
Right. And
this isn't capitalism, this is crony capitalism.
And this is, I think, the first step and certainly foreshadowing of what pharmaceutical companies will be like under Trump's administration. There was a lot of tough talk, but immediately after Trump met with these pharmaceutical companies, the CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies, things changed very quickly, right? And so you don't hear a lot from him, especially in midst of all of these healthcare debates. You don't hear a lot from him or anything from him regarding the price of medicine, why it is that in Canada you can buy much cheaper pharmaceutical drugs, but here in the United States you're paying 4 times more in a lot of cases for the exact same drugs. You don't hear him talking about those things anymore. Let me give you some more information. So last month, federal lawmakers from both parties helped the industry block Senate legislation to let Americans purchase lower-priced FDA-approved medicines from Canada, right? Jesus. So that is absurd. And by the way, again, let's emphasize that it wasn't just Republicans, it was Democrats as well. And also, some of these shareholders are really upset about this. And, of course, they're concerned about the American public, I'm sure. But most of it comes down to them and their business, you know? So let me give you a statement from Susan Vickers. She says, apart from the obvious risk to public health, we view transparency around how prices are developed as a fundamental tenet of good governance. Investors believe the information to be material as we see continued secrecy around pricing strategies as a clear legal, reputational, and financial risk to our investments.
Look, I can give you a million examples, but here, let's do one example. And I'm not saying they do this, but they could if they hide it. So what if they said, okay, all right, we're going to increase prices by 25%. Why? We're not going to tell you. If it turns out that you look at their books and they increase prices by 25% because they want to give 24% of that to their executives to take home. You go, wait a minute, as a shareholder in the company, I'd like to know that. So can you tell me why you increased the prices? That's a little bit more complicated than that because there are many rules governing compensation for executives, et cetera, right? But you can see why they might want to know what you're doing with their company. It is incredible arrogance on the part of the executives to say, no, I do declare, I will not be telling the owners anything, because they already control the politicians. So again, Republicans saying one thing, doing the other. Trump, by the way, I'm looking for reasons to give him credit on, because I don't like partisanship, right? So when Obama and Bush both gave the drug companies this monopoly where we couldn't even negotiate drug prices with them, it drove me crazy. It didn't make it any better when Obama did it rather than Bush. So when Trump said he was going to take that away and we're going to negotiate for better prices on Medicare, I said, great, I give him credit for that. And then when you're not looking, immediately what does he do? Oh, secretly, drug companies, and here you go, here's a huge advantage for you. Keep doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, nothing's going to get better under Trump. Anything that he claimed to do that would appeal to some liberals, he's not going to do. And he's been clear about that so far.
We already hired one investigative reporting team thanks to you guys. Let's hire the second right now. Go to tytnetwork.com/go.